Hello, welcome to Alyssa Jean's Reviews. My name is Alyssa Picard, and I am the great great aunt of the second cousin, twice removed, of Jean Luc Picard from the 21st century. And I am here to review Star Trek Picard, Season 2, Episode 5, Fly Me to the Moon. This review, of course, will be filled with spoilers. So if you have not seen the episode, then you do not want to watch this review. So I am recording this week as a live stream, which those of you who want to can watch later on. Um, I'm doing that instead of the usual pre-edited, pre-recorded version because I quite frankly don't have the time this week. I didn't have a lot of time today, don't have any time tomorrow. So it's a lot quicker and easier just to jump on here and do a live stream chat, and it should play the same to people viewing it in the future. However, the one difference is for this from between this and other live chats that I do is that if people do join me in the chat, which at this point no one has yet, but if you do, I'm not going to interact with the chat as I am doing my review because I want to get it out there as if this was a regular, normal, pre-recorded review where I don't have a chat to interact with. And then at the end, once I'm all done, if there are people in the chat, I can chat with them for a couple minutes. But if you want to join me in a chat where we can just talk about whatever we want to talk about, then join me this Saturday, April 2nd at 4 o'clock p.m. West Coast time, 6 o'clock. No, wait, 7 o'clock p.m. East Coast time, 4 o'clock West Coast time for me here on this channel. Now, let me get into the review for Fly Me into the Moon. Fly Me to the Moon. Those are my moon earrings, crescent moon earrings, in honor of not only this episode title, but also Moon Knight having a premiere this week, which is something I can talk about on that Saturday live chat. I'm not going to talk about it here. So this episode, well, I got to say my frustration level is quickly increasing, just as quickly as my patience is decreasing for this season. Last week I said it was my least favorite, but I still ended up giving it a 7 out of 10 and was still optimistic that this could be a good season. After this episode, I am much less optimistic. One of the things I was really excited about at the end of last week's episode, and I thought could be good, was this whole idea of this Watcher. But instead, what we get this week with the Watcher is, I mean, basically, I think that whole Watcher thing is a complete and utter catastrophe. And I'm going to be complaining a lot about many different aspects of that whole thing. I think it's a disaster. And I'll get into more detail as to why a little bit later. Also, I am losing patience for this glacial pace of this season. I'll talk about a storyline that definitely should have been cut. And there's mysteries that don't need to be mysteries, such as we still don't know exactly why the timeline has changed. We now have some vague notions that it has something to do with Picard's ancestor over here and something to do with Dr. Soong's ancestor over here, and we don't see the connection. By episode 5, we should have the full story. This is ridiculous. Also, there's mysteries where I just kind of lost interest. Like, I don't feel drawn in. I'm not intrigued. Like, this whole Q thing, like, we found out when we first saw him that something weird was going on with him. And I was like, what is happening? And then last week, saw he's lost his powers. I feel like that is spinning its wheels. It's going nowhere at this point. I'm like, just tell us already. Like, I just feel like I'm not drawn in. I'm not intrigued. Like, I kind of almost don't even care anymore because they're doing a terrible job at presenting their mysteries, or at least for me. I do not feel like drawn in or hooked. I have been talking about how I like the Agnes and and aboard Queen stuff. This week it took a turn that I don't know that I love, but I'll get into that as well. So let me go ahead and start getting into more of the details, and let's start with this Watcher thing. I think her name. She said her name was Talia. So first of all, why does she look like Laris? Last week I kind of made the assumption that it's one of those things where it's an alien entity, and it takes the form of whatever the viewer, the person that it's interacting with, wants to see. But this week it's very clear that this is not an alien being like that. In fact, if we are going to take the show at its word that this is the same thing as the Assignment Earth thing, and I'll get to that in a minute, the whole Assignment Earth thing, then that means this is a genetically modified human. So it's not even an alien, really. So why does she look like Laris? I think just to give the actress something to do. And what I predict is that they're just going to stop mentioning it and just hope that we forget about it, because they just wanted to give this actress something to do. Because honestly, I can't think of what a good explanation would possibly be for why this person looks like Laris. There is none. If it's not an alien entity that can take any form, and it's not Laris herself, which would also be really weird, then there really isn't any sort of explanation as to why this person looks like Laris. So you watch, they're just going to stop mentioning it and just hope that we just forget about it and don't talk about it anymore. And maybe some people will, because I've noticed in other reviews, I guess people are more positive on this than I am, that they're just letting this go. Like, I'm not letting this go. I can't just overlook this. There's no explanation for why this person looks like Laris, and I predict they're not going to ever give us one. They just simply wanted something for this actress to do. That is what I think. Now, I also want to talk about, we'll talk a little bit about this whole Assignment Earth thing, but first, the fact that Picard mentions, Kirk's Enterprise once encountered somebody named, what was his name? Gary 7. Okay, so this is the second time Picard has mentioned Kirk's Enterprise this season. The first one was with the slingshot around the sun. That one, okay, I'll forgive, because, it's become a pretty useful time travel method. I still think it would be weird for him to specifically mention that it was Kirk's Enterprise, except for the fact that it was on a TV show. But that's fine. I can forgive that. That's totally fine. But this reference to Kirk's Enterprise, again, mentioning Kirk's Enterprise again, but talking about this, there's no way he would know about this whole Gary 7 thing. And just having him stutter and go, what was his name again? It was Gary 7, does not cut it. Like, what is Picard doing? Sitting down and actually watching episodes of the original series? There is 0% chance he would know about this whole Gary 7 thing. They used to do this kind of shit with Spock in the original series, actually, where he would know things that he has no business knowing just for plot contrivance. And that is exactly what they're doing here. And it's bugging the shit out of me. And now let's get into this whole Assignment Earth thing. Assignment Earth? Really? So, for those who don't know, Assignment Earth was the season 2 finale of the original series. And it was a backdoor pilot for a new show that Gene Roddenberry was trying to get on the air, possibly to replace Star Trek, because Star Trek was in danger of being canceled, about this... I guess there's some aliens who had taken humans and genetically enhanced them and raised them and then sent them back to Earth to kind of be these protectors, these guardians. And that's what they're saying that the Laris, I think is it Talia, whatever her name is, the Watcher character, that's what they're saying that she is. Assignment Earth is a stain of the Star Trek franchise, and really one of the low points in Gene Roddenberry's career. It was a very shameful attempt to try to get a backdoor pilot on Star Trek where it did not belong. And forget the fact that that show sucked and it deserved not to be picked up because it wasn't a very good show. Forget that. Just the fact that he was using Star Trek for this And it made no sense whatsoever. There was no reason at all for Kirk and the Enterprise to go back in time other than just so that Gene Roddenberry can have this a backdoor pilot. But it had made absolutely no sense in universe for Kirk and Spock and crew to be there. I used to do I had a review on my previous channel of this episode where I recreated the introductory Captain's Log, where it's like, Captain's Log, we have traveled back in time for absolutely no reason whatsoever. I mean, they seriously go back in time for no reason. They say it's for an observation mission, but that's not a thing. People, they don't go back in time just to observe. Like, that is not a thing. It was just a poor excuse to have this awful backdoor pilot. And this episode should be swept under the rug and swept out of canon. It should not have a light shined on it. Assignment Earth. Like, so what's next? Way to Eden? Are we going to have a connection to Way to Eden next? We're going to have Picard saying, oh, Kirk's Enterprise once encountered a ship of space hippies, and perhaps these space hippies somehow in some weird way can connect to the plot of this show. Like, is that what's next? What is happening here? Star Trek, what are you doing? Assignment Earth? Oh, are you kidding me? Also, I'm kind of confused. Like, Solaris is, or whatever her name is, the Watcher is protecting Renee Picard. Like, she's been signed specifically to this person, but it doesn't have to do with time travel. I don't really know why. And she didn't know who Jean-Luc was, or that he had traveled back in time. So it's a completely separate thing. So you're telling me that of all the billions of people who live on the Earth in this time period, that this Watcher person just happens to be charged with watching the same person who somehow affects the entire timeline and changes the whole timeline, but it has nothing to do with that. I'm very confused by this. So I'm confused by this whole concept of, like, what would make, if it's not the time travel thing, then what makes her important? Maybe it is the time travel thing. I'm just very confused by this, because does, like, every human have one of these people watching over them? I don't think so. So I don't know. I just don't understand how that's possible. I'm just very confused by all of that. See, this whole thing is just such a disaster. I just think it's a catastrophe. Moving on. Assignment Earth. Okay, so let's talk about this Raffi and Seven and Rios thing, because last week I said that I felt that storyline didn't need to be there. We all knew that they were going to rescue Rios. It seemed to be creating false tension, just that it doesn't really exist, because we know they're going to succeed, and just falling into a lot of the old stale time travel tropes, and I just felt like it wasn't needed. Now this week really proves that, because it turns out that Seven, Raffi, and Rios left the ship for absolutely no reason whatsoever. They left to go find the Watcher. Picard found the Watcher. So all they did was have this little adventure that they totally didn't need to have, didn't need to waste screen time on the show for it. And all they did was just go back to the ship again, and they're back at square one. So if they had never left the ship, where are we? I mean, I guess we, wanted to introduce probably that doctor character. She's probably going to come back. So that's probably the whole purpose for all of that. I think it was a complete waste of time. And I would be remiss if I would not mention the thing that really pissed me off about this scene is at the beginning of it, where 7 of 9 is saying to Raffi, oh no, we can't just beam him off the bus because people would see it and that would contaminate the timeline. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm sorry for yelling, but I can't control it. Oh! Never mind the fact that 5 minutes ago, within the timeline of the show, 5 minutes ago, they just beamed out in front of a whole squadron full of cops in broad daylight. And now all of a sudden they're concerned about beaming people out in broad daylight. You just did it. You've already contaminated the timeline. So basically, the whole purpose for them leaving the ship was to go and contaminate the timeline. That's all they have accomplished. Like, I don't know this show. Yeah, I don't know. So far, I've watched a couple other reviews, and so far they both been positive. So I know that my brother will join me because my brother was more negative on it last week than I was. But I am not impressed with this show at all right now, and I don't think it's irredeemable. I think there's some ways to save it and make it like a halfway decent show, but I don't know. The odds are dropping. Um, yeah, I was previously really into the Agnes and Borg Queen stuff, and I still am kind of interested in that. I still would like it if it turns out that Girardi does turn into the new Borg Queen, but becomes a more benevolent Borg Queen, and that she's the Borg Queen that we see at the beginning of the season. That's the theory that I talked about last week. I think that would still be pretty cool. They could still head in that direction. Not a huge fan of the whole BSG thing. The whole like she's going to be able to see and hear the Borg Queen, and nobody else is going to be able to. And of course, Girardi is not going to tell anyone that she sees the Borg Queen. So there's going to be these comical scenes where she's talking to herself. And the reason why I say BSG specifically, even though that's a trope that we've seen a million times all over the place, is because the Borg Queen, I think, reminds me of that chick from BSG. And I think she's going to be similarly behaved. So not a huge fan of that. But we'll see. We'll see where they go with that. Well, let's talk about Brent Spiner playing yet another Soong. I actually complained about this from the trailers. That really does. So every Soong in history looks exactly like Brent Spiner. I mean, I think it's a little ridiculous. And honestly, the fact that his daughter looks like Soji is also ridiculous. I think it's just very low quality kind of stuff. I don't know. Is just reusing all the same actors for these different roles because they can't be inventive and come up with new roles and just have completely new people who might be interesting and engaging to the audience. They just have to keep reusing the same actors. Same thing with the Watcher thing. Now they have to have Brent Spiner play every Soong in history, and his daughter has to be Soji because they couldn't find a way to have Soji actually be on the show. I don't know. I just don't know. And I'm still very unclear, as I mentioned at the top, on how the timeline has changed. And I feel like we should know by now. Like, so it just seems convoluted and disconnected. So over here we have this Rene Picard going into space, and that is the thing that Picard and his people believe is what changed the timeline, but they don't know about the Dr. Soong things. But that's clearly another piece of the puzzle. And there's actually a statue of him in the Confederation back in episode 2. There's a statue of this guy, so he's very important to the formation of the Confederation. This is probably something to do with his genetic experiments and cloning or whatever he's doing. So that just really seems kind of jumbled and convoluted to me right now, and kind of a mess. And I feel like we should really just know by now. And this whole Q thing, the Watcher asked a good question. Why doesn't he just snap his fingers and just change time? Why is he going through all this trouble? We know he has lost his powers for some weird reason. But and did he do this before he took Picard back into? I don't know. I just kind of think it was more of a jumbled mess than something that I'm actually intrigued by. I don't know what the show is going to need to do to kind of reel me back in. I don't know, but I am not feeling very impressed right now. All right. I think that I will go ahead and give my rating and get out of here. So I was not joined in the chat this time by anyone, and that is actually perfectly okay with me, so that I can just kind of get my review out there as if this was a pre-recorded video, and then you all hopefully will join me in the live chat on Saturday, April 2nd, 2 days from now. All right, everyone, then join me next week for my review of Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 6. We'll see. We'll see if I like it any better. Oh, yeah, my rating out of 10. I haven't given my rating out of 10 yet. I can't say goodbye just yet. I think I'm giving it a 4. I was thinking 5. I'm like, well, what did you do to deserve a 5? Like, why is it that high? It's a 4. I won't go quite 3, 2, or 1 yet, but I want to make a statement. This is how I feel about the season. Now, if for some reason they do, if they're able to turn it around, and then I go back in retrospect, and it's kind of some of my fears are put to rest. Like maybe they do something really cool with this Watcher, and they're not just making her look like Laris for no reason. Maybe they do something really cool with the Borg Queen that and Agnes, as I was talking about before. Maybe they do some cool things. In that case, if I go back in retrospect, I could go, okay, well, maybe I'll raise that 4 up a little bit in retrospect. However, if it continues going in this direction, then I will be going back to last week's episode, which I gave maybe the unreasonably high score of a 7, and maybe I'll be lowering it in retrospect if they do not get their shit together. So we'll just see how it goes. Maybe it'll end up being better than I think it'll be, but I am quickly losing hope for that. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. Once again, I will see you all Saturday, April 2nd, 4 o'clock p.m. West Coast time. And then I will see you next week for my review for Season 2, Episode 6. Good night, everyone.